Welcome, everyone. Thanks for coming back and visiting with me here on the Cucina Aurora Kitchen Witchery podcast for some conversational witchcraft. I'm Dawn, the Kitchen Witch, and today I am like over the moon. If you're watching this video, you could see I have the biggest smile on my face because my guest today is legitimately one of my favorite human beings on the planet. I know I say that a lot about people. I know I have a lot of love. The truth is, I have a lot of love, and I'm very blessed to have a lot of love in my life, and I'm very blessed to have a lot of amazing people in my life. But this particular woman has changed my life and touched my life in so many ways. So I'm going to read her introduction and then I'm just going to gush all about her. Her name is Matooka Moonbear. And if you haven't heard of Matooka Moonbear, let me tell you a little bit about her. She is a witch, an initiated high priestess, and ordained minister in the Temple of Witchcraft. She also studies and has received initiation in the goddess school tradition of feminine mysteries, as well as a 2-year intensive study in priestess path apprenticeship. During her 30-year journey in earth-based spirituality, she has studied with a Mohawk elder, learning the ways of the Red Road. She developed passion and skill about creating ritual, rites, and passage and shamanic intention and initiation. Her practice includes multiple shamanic traditions that encompass working with animal allies, as well as creating ritual tools such as sacred drums and rattles, of which I have. She actually made me a rattle, which is amazing. She created the Hoops of Life divination for some shamanic consultation, making it a system of spiritual guidance. Her skills also include Reiki master teacher and Kiria massage therapy. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. More recent years, she immersed herself in exploring the learning about tantric healing and is presently is studying herbalism. Today, she continues to share her skills, offering readings, workshops, rituals, and healing sessions. Her great work and passion lies in healing of the feminine principle, in particular, the aspect of crone in the psyche of humanity. Welcome, my most favorite Mama Matooka Moonbear. I am overjoyed that you wanted to come here and chat with me and spend time with me. Like, I love spending time with you in the world. So virtually spending time with you is also amazing. I am just so blessed to have you in my life and here on my little podcast. So welcome.
Oh, thank you so much, Dawn. Thank you for having me, and I'm excited to be here with you.
I wasn't sure this is something that you'd want to do. I was a little like, I mean, we've been friends for a very long time. All right, a very, very long time. And intimate friends, like we'll get into that a little bit later and I'll tell everybody about the amazing healing work that you've done for me. But I was a little intimidated to ask you if you wanted to come on the show because I didn't know if this was like too public a forum for you because you are so like this amazing embodiment of the divine feminine for me that I was a little concerned that you'd be like, oh, I don't need to be out like that. I was a little intimidated to ask you, but it took some time. And then I was like, oh, okay.
Oh, well, I'm super touched that you asked me, and I'm excited to be here. Really, I was honored. Actually, when I read that, I'm like, oh my gosh! And I have to tell you, honestly, um, I had a premonition that you were going to invite me probably about 3 days before you actually sent the mail.
You're kidding.
Yeah. No,
What did that look like? You just were just thinking about it?
Yeah, I was just thinking about it. I'm like, I think she's going to invite me, and I'm like, I totally would do it. Like, I was so excited, and then, voila, there was the email, and I'm like, oh, here it is.
Well, it's hard, right? I'm still learning the ropes of how to do this. I tell everybody like I'm a baby podcaster. I don't know shit. I bullshit. I make it work, and I have good business instincts, but I don't really know what I'm doing. Like I'm really just flying by the seat of my pants. So when you're working in this kind of medium and you're reaching out to people you don't know, and then also reaching out to people you do know, for me, it's more intimidating to ask the people I do know because I legitimately love and respect the work that you do and appreciate the work that you do. And I don't want anyone to feel like because of our personal relationship, you have to give me your time. Do you know what I mean? So
I do hear that actually.
I'm completely overjoyed that you wanted to do this because I think people need to, first of all, everyone in my life, until they need to meet you, is that I'll be like, oh, Matooka's been through that. She could help you. Oh, Matooka knows all about that. Matooka can help. Oh, you need to meet Matooka because when walking into a room where Matooka Moonbear is, you immediately feel at peace and home and nurtured. Like I cannot describe the energy that you bring into a space, Matooka. Like there's a knowledge about you. There's a comforting presence that you have. And I'm sure that that is not something that has come, maybe you don't even know that you carry that with you, but I'm sure that that's not something that has come easily for you. Most of us don't know about your path and your journey. We know that where you are now, you're doing crone work. And obviously you, as we said in your introduction, you're a high priestess. Can you talk a little bit about, for people who might just be starting out on their paths, how did you start on a path? How did you find this path in the first place? Like you've been doing this for 30 years, you've been teaching and you've been a high priestess and all of these things. How did you get there? You don't just wake up one day and be like, I'm going to be a high priestess, like, how does that happen?
You're right. You don't wake up one day, say, I'm going to do this.
Right.
It's actually one step in front of the other. It's one situation leading to another situation. It first started actually with books. Okay. I went into, I discovered a metaphysical store for the very first time. I didn't even know about the New Age. It was like in, well, maybe 1986 or 1987, around that time. And there was a place called The Expanded Mind. So I went.
Where was that? Where was that?
It was in New London, in near the Lake Sunapee region.
Oh, in New Hampshire.
Yes, in New Hampshire.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I went to this shop and I went there often and I would find these books, and it started off with, say, Native American spirituality. My first ones were books that Sun Bear wrote, and I was very intrigued with him because here he was a medicine. I call him a medicine person, and he wrote very simply and directly. And that led to books that all about books from Lynn Anderson. And I read all her books. I just gobbled them all up. So I went on a reading binge like crazy.
Yeah.
And I was sucking up all this information. And then that store was going to close. So lo and behold, I said, this can't happen. And I opened one myself.
No.
So I did.
No.
I did. I had a shop over my garage.
Wait a second. Wait a second. I've known you for like 12 years and I don't tell you this. How have I not you owned a shop? A bookshop? Holy fucking crap, Matooka.
I did. It was calm down. No, seriously, I did. It was over my garage. I had this big gambrel garage in Newport, New Hampshire. And it was while I was raising kids. So it was 1989. I opened the shop and I called it Morning Star Loft. And it was seasonal because I didn't have heat up there. So,
right.
Yeah. So it was seasonal, but I began my own metaphysical store, and which led to witchcraft. That's where the witchcraft came in. That's when the witchcraft came in. I'm going to tell you a true story. You're going to love this. Wait for it. Wait for it.
I'm excited.
So I'm up there doing my thing behind the counter of my shop, my little shop. It was very rustic. I have pictures. I'll show you sometime.
Please.
I will. So this woman comes walking in through the store. She walks around the whole entire store, stops in front of the counter. She's an older woman. And she goes, "Are you Wiccan?" And I said, no. She goes, "Well, you should be." And she left. And I'm like, the crone came in,
Right.
made this proclamation announcement thing. And what was I to do? I started looking at books on witchcraft, and that started, I started reading all of Scott Cunningham's books, because that was pretty popular at that point, that
Yeah.
the big stuff was coming out. When I was younger, I was interested in witchcraft. I was about 14, 15, where I decided I was a witch. And
Really?
I did. I told my mom.
How did that go?
She kind of rolled her eyes. There were no books. I couldn't find any books at that time. There was nothing available.
There's no internet.
There was no internet. There was nothing back
Right.
in the early 70s, right? So I was like circling back to my teen years when I found these books. And so then I decided I better become friends with Llewellyn, and I started ordering all the Llewellyn books into my shop. And yeah, so that's when it started.
That blows my mind on so many levels, because I knew that you started your journey. Well, I thought you started your journey like with the Native American stuff.
Yeah,
We've had those conversations before you were really drawn to that. And that's kind of, and I think that is I would say a gateway, right, to witchcraft. But by the same token, I mean, it's all nature-based spirituality, and the themes and the mechanisms, they overlap so much. I have to say that it's funny, because I often ask people what non-pagan influences, like if you were a kid and you wouldn't say, oh, this was, I read a witchcraft book or whatever, you would say, oh, I knew that I felt connected to some sort of spirit when I, played with this particular doll that looked like a fairy or something like that. And for me, that moment was being a kid and seeing Disney's Pocahontas. And they talk about the earth spirits and they talk about the nature spirits. And I was like, oh yeah, I get that. And so that Native American spiritual side of things kind of was a wake up for me as a child as well. So that makes sense to me. But you owning a shop, I never, how long did that last? And what did you, besides like this crazy crone lady coming in and basically bashing you over the head with this, what was that experience like? And why did you stop doing that? Did you love it, or was that not for you?
I did love it, and I still think about a shop someday, just because it's fun. It's a lot of work, but it's fun.
Yeah.
So I did it for 6 years. I did it for 6 years. I closed the shop in 1996. So yeah, I think the thing that changed was the father of my children became very ill, and it was a lot of things to balance. My kids were getting older.
Yeah.
Things were just shifting in my life,
Yeah.
Yeah, and big time shifting.
What a great experience, though. The people you must have met and the conduit of learning that you must have had through, like you said, making friends with the Llewellyn and bringing in all those books and then being able to impart that knowledge. Because when I think of you, Matooka, the first thing I think of is, the embodiment of the Divine Mother. That's the first thing I think of. And then the second thing I think of is nurturer, teacher, someone that I look to for wisdom and guidance. And it seems like that's just such a part of your nature to impart what you've learned, and help other people interpret things. Did you find that owning that shop and going through that journey of your own path and your own learning allowed you to impart your knowledge on other people, because you have that setting, people are coming into your shop looking for certain things, right? Was that a real teaching? Was that did you get the teaching bug then?
I think I did. I think at that point I was, well, it was funny, actually. I'm going to digress a little bit here. People used to bring me dead animal things. I know, roadkill. owls and all this other stuff. What do I do? I didn't have the skills. Nobody taught me. So I had to like trust spirit to guide, you know? And so we would just go up to the oak tree, and we would, make some offering prayers. I would smudge it. We would dig a hole, you know. They would ask if they could take parts of the animal. I'm like, I'm not getting that. You have to release it. Like it release the spirit. It died
Yeah.
traumatically. Blah blah blah. And it was
Yeah.
all happening like, yeah. And hunters were bringing me skins and putting them in my freezer. Like, and this was just happening spontaneously because they just heard about this weird lady and
This weird lady named Matooka who's running
right.
this shop that's all about, nature and spirit and Native
Yeah.
American and right. And they're like, oh, this is a dead owl. Give it to give it to the priestess,
Yeah.
which is
Right.
so right. I don't know what to fucking do with this thing and give it to the priestess.
I,
I saved, I didn't save. There was just a couple weeks ago, it was literally just a couple weeks ago. There was a cardinal, a female cardinal that got hit by a car. That was the car in front of me. And it was flying across the road and it literally did a somersault. And I'm over there with my big Cucina van and stopping traffic so I could try to save this fucking bird. And I'm hysterical because it's a cardinal and her neck is broken and she's flapping her wings. And this is right in front of the Temple of Witchcraft grounds. Right in front of the Temple of Witchcraft grounds. So I call Christopher and I'm like, can I please come and put this dead bird on your grounds? And he's like, yes, of course. But it's that kind of thing. Like you wouldn't, if you didn't know, if you didn't have a space to do that in, you would immediately think, oh, well, there's this Native American priestess lady. I'll just call her and she'll know where to, honor this creature. That's no, and you said you were just listening to spirit. So during this journey, you figured out how to listen to intuition and spirit and intention. Have you always been the kind of person that is very intuitive in that way? Because I think when you're a kid, even in your adulthood, if you're not on this path, you could ignore those feelings, or you could just chalk them out and be like, oh, that's just crazy. That's just my brain doing something stupid, and get into practicality versus spirit. How do you recognize what's spirit and what's your own brain? And have you always been, right? Because we've had these conversations. Have you always been intuitive in that way? And if not, or if so, how do you interpret which is which and know which one to listen to?
That's a really excellent question, or series of questions.
I just spit them out as they come into my brain.
Yeah, they're just naturally flowing. So, so when I was a teenager and a child, I didn't trust any of those inner voices. There was just a lot going on in my life that wasn't conducive to it. But when I was raising my children, we lived in the country. We were in Newport, New Hampshire. I think there was a big phenomenon going on the planet called the Harmonic Convergence. And this was after my third child was born. So I think there was a lot of downloads, and the type of books I was reading and all that just opened me up, and I was tuning in. It was just naturally tuning in.
Can you explain to people what that convergence means or was at that time when you're talking about things that were happening on the planet at that time? Are you talking spiritually, astrologically? What do you mean? Can you get into that and how that affected you?
So I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly the meaning of the harmonic convergence, except that my guts tell me that there was a planetary alignment and a wave of energy that was happening over the entire globe during the end of the 80s. Mm-hmm. And this alignment, I think, was also the awakener to the new age, and people talking to crystals, and just these awakenings were happening spontaneously. Mm-hmm. I'm not an astrologer. I'm more of the intuitive. So having the literal knowledge or the book read knowledge of it it was just a term that was given to me during that time when I was asking all the questions. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay, it's the harmonic convergence.
That must be why I feel
Must be
connected with
it.
the earth. I can feel vibrations coming off this tree. It must be the convergence.
Like,
Yeah, no, I get that.
it was the crystals actually, because
Right.
when I first started touching crystals and they were having these buzzes, I'm like, ooh, something's going on, you know?
Right. Right. So that was all happening. And so you didn't start listening to that intuition or realizing that until you were awake to it, is basically what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Wow. So how do you tell? Right. Because we're all humans,
Right.
and some of us, me, struggle with anxiety. Some
Yeah.
of us struggle with depression. Some of us struggle with our own inner voice, self-doubt, self-criticism, as I like to call it, like these tapes that play over and over and again in our mind that maybe haven't been there, that have been put there by someone who isn't us. You know, the way we think about the world and the way we think about ourselves or our spirituality or our path, that can interfere with that spirit. So how did you at the time, because again, it doesn't happen overnight, right? How did you at the time figure out what was spirit and what was just garbage floating around in your head? Or, you know, do you know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do. Actually, stillness is the answer. Okay.
Stillness is the answer.
Yeah,
Talk to us about that, because that's
sure. So
so powerful.
we all know what the chatterbox brain is like, right? Like we all have it. And some of us have different frequencies, such as anxiety or the stories that the tapes and stories that we play over and over in our heads, right? I have it, you have, we all, everybody has it to some degree.
Yeah.
And a lot of that really is based off of fear. Am I fear from, am I doing it right? Fear that I'm not going to get my needs met. All those, yeah, the fear is wired. It's hardwired, like at this point in our culture, especially because we want to, keep up. We want to be happy, and all those things are good desires, but um, angst of I'm not good enough. I should be ashamed for wanting all the stories. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
The only way to quiet or turn down the volume, at least, of those stories so that you can tune into the inner voice, the wise person inside that
Mm-hmm.
everybody has, everybody has, okay,
Mm-hmm.
is stillness. And that and stillness means coming to present moment, okay, tuning into what is going on right here in the now. Oh, I'm sitting here. I'm breathing. I feel my heartbeat. I hear sounds. The cat ran by. The room is quiet. Like tuning into the now moment.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe closing your eyes with an intention or an affirmation to, I want to hear what's going on right here, right now. Taking a few deep breaths and tuning in. And that practice actually works really well. I also exercise it with a short meditation after a small reading. So I'll pull a card, contemplate on that card. And the cards I use are auricular cards, they're not tarot for that particular kind of work. If I want to get into something a little deeper, I'll do a tarot reading, but um, more like reflective cards, pulling an oracle
Mm-hmm.
that will really give me a message of the soul.
Sure.
Um, that, and then I affirm. I walk around affirming.
Right. So in that stillness, in that presentness, you're able to clear the clutter, and whatever you're left with is the true intuition, is the true spirit telling you what it is you need to hear. Sometimes we don't want to hear what they have to say, but but that's how you do it now. How did you find that? You're describing the beginning of your journey, running a store, raising children, and then trying to find this spiritual path as you're finding the spiritual path through all of that. If someone's listening to this right now and going, oh, it's great for you, you can find stillness, but I've got, 3 kids and a full-time job and this and this and that. How does that person find stillness? What is your advice to that person to be able to get in touch with what is spirit and quiet the internal noise?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. It's a really good question, and it's the acceptance of it can be little bits at a time. It doesn't have to be a half an hour or an hour or whatever. It can be those little 3 minute moments. Driving to work.
Mm.
It can be that 3 minutes of I'm going to go to the bathroom and shut the door.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, absolutely. I have those moments. So many clear moments for me happen in the shower. Like, because when you're showering, just like when you're driving, you're in a meditative state because you're doing something that is on autopilot. You have your routine. You're not focusing on one particular thing or the other thing. And you're like, when I'm in the shower, I'm just in the shower. I'm just washing my hair. So I find that, and I've done it, every single day of my life for the last 42 years. So I'm not thinking about it. So it creates that stillness because I'm just here now. And I have revelations in the shower. I have brilliant ideas in the shower. I'd be like, oh my God, Justin, I just had this, this amazing idea. I had an amazing idea the other day. I was like, I'm not gonna tell you, it's stupid, but it's
amazing.
I was like, oh my God, that's $1 million idea in the shower. But I think that's a really, really, really good point. It is intimidating to see or talk to someone like you who's been on this journey for so long and seems like you have this shit down, Matooka. Like you, and now I know because we're friends that you do still do work and always striving to do better and do more and then share what you learn with other people. But I think there's a lot of people that are finding different pagan paths, finding different levels of witchcraft or spiritual path, or I don't even, not even a practice, but just that light bulb moment that you had, right, when you started reading, books back when you started, you're like, oh, that light bulb moment for you. I think people are getting that now, especially there's this reemergence, this rebirth of craft, and people are finding podcasts and Instagram and things like that. So it's really wonderful to talk to someone who is so far on this journey because you have such deep knowledge. I want to hear about, because you really are a teacher, you really impart wisdom. And you guys, you have to understand, like, what Matooka does, you cannot get it from what's happening on this podcast. Like, she's just the most amazing human being. And I told her before we started that this was going to be like an hour of me just loving her completely. But Matooka has changed my life through her work, basically as a spiritual counselor. I don't have any other way of putting that. Would that be the right term?
Yeah, I would say that I do shamanic or spiritual consultation.
Yeah. I mean, after my dad passed away, I want to say it was probably 6 months, 8 months after my dad died. And I was this is very, I'm just going to be very open about it because it was a real deep experience for me, this kind of healing session that we did. And it was like 4 hours of me sobbing my eyes out, screaming and crying in a safe space that you held for me in this divine mother energy. And we've done a couple of sessions like that are, for me as the recipient, literally life-changing. It's like 10 years of therapy in 4 hours. Like, that the meditative qualities, the spiritual counseling, the holding of that space. And I know that that's not something you do for everyone. And so I'm eternally grateful for that. But how did you even come to understand that you could do that kind of work for people? Did someone hold that kind of space for you to help you through trauma? Or is that just you realized you had this gift and you needed to impart it because it's immeasurable in terms of the good and healing that you've given me?
Thank you for asking. Actually, Dawn, it comes from a personal need of my own. Okay, so
Mm,
I would say my background, having my own traumas and wounds growing up, made it very clear to me that I'm a wounded healer.
mm,
As a wounded healer, the things that I needed or I was looking for on my journey, I was looking for teachers who could embody or hold certain particular things, guidance. I was always afraid of making mistakes or
mm,
doing things in a way that would be harmful or not heal myself. So this whole thing has been a healing quest of my own journey for self-healing. And as I gather that, because of having a strong Chiron in my astrology chart for a wounded healer, it became very clear that I could cultivate and hold and learn how to hold that space, give it back. There's not, it's one thing to work on your self-healing. I think it's a very important part of the journey. I think we're all here to heal whatever it is that we're carrying. It's another piece to be able to also share that with others and make it part of who you are. And I had a lot of different teachers, different trainings, and in my seeking that helped cultivate that for me. Holding space, hmm, I would say, I would say that was gleaned also from different situations in my healing journey of I didn't hear this, I didn't receive the holding of space in this container the way I would have liked it, and I tweaked
mm,
it. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. I know exactly what you mean. And I have to say, as a recipient of that, and also as someone who has come to, one or two of your bigger containers, as we put it, for example, dreaming in the bear cave, like it was a ritual that you hold every year, dreaming in the bear cave. Anyone who's listening to this, if you have the opportunity to go to the dreaming in the bear cave ritual, would you call it ritual, space, meditation
It
class?
is a ritual. It is
It's
a ritual.
it is the most incredible inward journey. um Matooka does it like every January, February, and it's incredible. If you have the chance to go, fucking go. Because again, any container that Matooka creates is life changing, and mind altering. It makes you think about things, yourself, your spiritual path, makes you think about everything differently. Um, but being a recipient of sitting in the containers that you create, um, I thank you for
Mm.
like seriously. Um, it's just amazing. And I remember when this is a few years back now, where you created the Hoops of Life divination system. Can you tell everybody about this particular divination? Because it is, again, so unique. It's so very Matooka. And I was so lucky to get to participate in that as it was in its infancy, and you were developing this system. So tell everybody about that and where it came from. How did you divine from spirit that this was what you were supposed to do?
Okay, this is a fun story actually for me. So, first of all, I was at a Temple of Witchcraft. We were doing Temple Fest. It was in the I think one of the rituals that was being held there, and I'm standing there in ritual, and the magic's going on, and it's 2012, okay, and all of a sudden I see these wheels coming out of the sky, and then they superimpose on each other. Okay, one was the Native American medicine wheel, the other was the Celtic wheel or the witch's wheel. On top of that, and then on top of that was life, death, rebirth, and then body, mind, and spirit. And these four wheels clicked and started moving like gears in a clock. And I got excited. So when everything was said and done, I went to my computer and I went looking for a medicine wheel and a this wheel and a that wheel, and I just printed them out and held them up on paper. That's how it started. I held them up on paper and I looked at them. I'm like, wow. I was like so in awe of just that piece. So then I realized that the wheel was the year of the wheel, right? Like the year the year, and how the seasons move and what happens for us as people psychologically, how we feel, not just what were the equinoxes doing, what were the solstices doing to us, and I got and all the moons, right?
Mm.
Um, and and I thought, wow, I, as a witch and a person who's traveled with the medicine wheel in my earlier years, it seemed very natural that this was a culmination of my own life experiences in my spiritual walk, gathering these wheels. They became sort of a reality map for me, my
Mm.
spiritual reality. And so then I had all these relics, these little objects. And these little objects, a lot of them I carried in you can call it a mojo bag or a medicine bag. I've danced them at powwows. I mean, like they were spiritual objects. I had some of them as old as the early 90s. Like I've had them
Wow.
a long time, right?
Right. They're
And
infused with all the energy of those powwows and rituals, and
yes,
everywhere you've brought them or divined with them,
yes,
like they have all that energy with them. They take it in.
yes, they do. And
Wow.
so all of that, so they became the allies that would dance on the wheels. And so I would put them in the center. And once I did a smudging and calling in the allies and so forth, a person would plant their hands on the objects and stir them around the board. And then when they felt ready, they would take their hands off and I would start reading.
Wow.
It's very powerful consultation. It's not usually a situation where somebody can ask a question, although I can pick up on things if stuff is going on.
And it's more like having that reading, it's more like a roadmap for your year, is
It,
really what it is.
it is.
Right. I mean, because like you said, it's not like I'm going to sit down and ask a particular question. It's what is going to happen in the next 3 months, 6 months, 12 months.
Right.
Um, it's just, it's incredible. Have you been able to do any of those readings virtually because of the COVID pandemic? Have you been able to still continue to do those?
I have actually. And I was concerned how that was going to roll because I'm like, I'm used to people touching them and stirring them all up. So
Yeah.
what I've done is I've asked the person on the other side, so do I have permission for my hands to become your hands?
Hmm.
And they give permission, and then I plant my hands and I said, now tell me when to start and when to stop. And it works really, really well. I call in their spirit guides, guardians, and allies, and it works super well. And the other cool part of that is they can record it. I give them permission to
Oh, wow.
reflect on it, and then I take a picture of their mandala of the reading, and so it's actually they get more from
Right.
doing it that way because they
Right.
can reflect on it.
And now, so you've been doing that for almost 10 years now, right? So
Yeah,
2012 is when you came up with it.
2012, so it's almost,
Wow.
yeah.
That's 11 years. Is that even possible?
I don't know. Time's been flying though.
How's that even possible? I remember you came to my office and you
I
put down the mat,
I
and
did.
and we sat in the meditation room at the office, and you put down that mat and you're like, I have this great idea. I want to try it out on you. And I was like, this is fucking amazing. Like, really, how in the world? Wasn't that like 2 days ago? Like, I don't,
It seems like it, at least last year anyway.
at least, right?
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
know.
and it's such an innovative, it's such an innovative type of divination, but at the same time, it is so entirely you. Like you said, that this I want to use the word system because it is, but it's such a too simple of a word, but it is so entirely you. And you have been able to, you're this person in the world, Matooka, that like you have such a true, honest sense of identity and path and your own personal power. And this is like a manifestation of that to me. That's what I see as a spectator, is how, like you said, it's all of these wheels of everything you've learned. And it makes sense. Like it all meshes together. It all goes together. I think oftentimes, especially people that are just starting out, and even myself, who's been at this spiritual thing for a while, you often think you have to pick just one thing, you know? Oh, I'm a kitchen witch. Oh, I'm an occultist. Oh, I'm this. Oh, I'm that. And that we think, oh, well, if I'm working with this deity, then maybe I can't work with that deity. If I'm working with these kinds of energies, maybe I can't work with those kind of energies. At least that's part of my work, is trying to go, oh no, it's okay. You can do everything. You don't have to do everything, but you can do everything if you choose to. And you are this like wealth of knowledge because you've never said, I don't want to learn that because it doesn't mesh with this thing I learned before. You're like, oh yeah, how can that supplement this other thing that I've learned? And then you put it all together and create this amazing system of divination. And that's just like the tip of the iceberg of what you do. I think it's really important to have this conversation because in the first part of this series, Conversational Witchcraft, I interviewed a lot of people who were authors, who are experts in one thing, and they're amazing, amazing people. But this time I'm interviewing people like you who are living and walking, and you're professional. This is your life's work, you know? And I think it just proves to people that they can do it. Right. So like
Absolutely.
how would you advise someone who's maybe thinking, hey, I want to be Matooka, what would you say if somebody was like, because I want to be Matooka, like it's my goal in life.
Oh, well, first thing I would say is please just be yourself.
Oh.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that's the whole thing is it's embodying yourself. Being
Mm,
me is the choice of I am who I am and what I bring is important enough because I'm healing, because so the value that I find in me is
mm.
because I'm embodying all that I've been searching for.
Oh,
That comes,
wow. Wow. Okay. Say that again. The value that you bring
yeah.
is because of what you've been searching for. So you've
Yes,
become,
I've become the embodiment of what I've been searching for.
wow. And that's not just as a witch and a priestess. That's as a person, as a member of community, as a friend.
Yeah,
You have become, right? What's the adage? Be the change you wish to see in the world, right?
absolutely. And
And that's
also the
exact
love that you want to see.
the love that you want to see in the world. That is, oof, that's, whew, like I just see, that's what I mean. Like just being around you, like you just get these waves of understanding and reflection and nurturing that maybe you wouldn't have thought of before. Okay, on that note, we're going to take a teeny tiny break because we have sponsors and they have to say we have to talk about them. So we take a super teeny tiny break and we'll be right back with the amazing Matooka Moonbear.
Mm.
So we don't actually take a break. I just have to say it.
I love you.
I have to say it so that they know where to put the producer knows where to put the commercials. So
Awesome.
we're like,
Yeah.
we'll say thank you, Corey, for putting in the commercials. And unless you have to and you want to take a break, now's the time. Like you need to pee or
It's
get a drink.
perfect. It's perfect. I'll take a sip of water.
I made myself a chai tea and it's fucking delicious. It's so good. Okay. Are you ready?
I am.
Okay. Okay. And we are back on another episode of Conversational Witchcraft with the amazing Fill My Heart Up with Matooka Moonbear all day long. Thanks for coming back. Thanks. Welcome back. Welcome back, Matooka. So before we went to break, we were talking about your amazing hoops of life divination, and you've been doing that for a while. But I want to talk about now your new stuff, like the new journey that you're working on with your crone work. Cause this, I'm a little sad I'm not quite crony yet. because I can't really participate in it. But I think you need to share it with everyone because, again, it's an aspect of the craft that I don't think is paid attention enough to.
I agree. I agree. I think what's prompting that aspect is, first of all, a strong part of my journey has been working with the divine feminine
Mm.
in the goddess school and the priestess path and so forth. And that was also a journey on healing my own inner feminine, my inner woman, right? The things that I was experiencing in my life. Now, what am I experiencing? I'm experiencing aging. So
Mm.
it became important to me on some of the containers that I participated in as a participant. I felt that not only the women were not being held as the same esteem as, say, the male people that were attending at the time, but also particularly women who were beyond a certain age weren't being held with the same esteem as the younger women. So like there was these divides happening. And I thought to myself, as a witch and as somebody who's been practicing divine feminine for so long, it's now time to honor the sacred crone for me.
Yeah.
And so I began a journey, as I do, to start questing, well, how do I bring her, bring the attention of her, to community? And it began with my own need to be seen and heard as an elder woman, you know. So I started with, I'll do these little crone calls, and any woman who wants to show up, who feels guided, could show up in this call and we could talk for an hour, on certain topics. I also did a couple of crone circles, a year's worth of tell storytelling of each decade of our lives. Um, that was another
Wow.
initiatories. One of the biggest things about women's circles is storytelling of ourselves, because something in our stories always needs to be heard by somebody else. It either validates them or gives them the next step.
Mm.
Part of that journey of the feminine mystery is storytelling, believe it or not. And yeah, so then I thought, well, it's not just about speaking to other women who are starting to go through the process or in the process, but I think it's also about getting all humanity, our culture, our society, everybody a little bit more wake up around elder women,
Mm.
right?
For sure. For sure.
So, so, so I started looking at the crone stuff as a very important piece to awakening, because there's something that crone brings that no other phase of a woman's life can present. And that is her I don't care candidness, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, she doesn't have the tolerance for sucking it up, making somebody else feel better, or anything. It's like it's pretty much on her own agenda. Now you had some sacred time with my noodle, Alan.
Oh, and Owen is the cuddle noodle. He's a beautiful snake. And I was so very lucky because I was chosen. I was chosen to be his caregiver, his surrogate mama for a couple months while you were in the process of moving homes. And I was ridiculously excited. I love the noodle. I love him. I love him.
Yeah,
Yes.
and he loves you, truly. And at any rate, so one of the lessons he taught me was, do not waste your energy. So you notice he likes to
Mm.
hide in his little huddle and don't come out and the whole bit. Well, that is very crone-esque.
Mm.
Okay, that's why I think oftentimes we see the serpent with the crone,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
Because he's like, swallow life whole. That's one mystery. Take lots of time to digest it. Second mystery. And the third mystery is, do not expend more energy than you absolutely need. So he's like a lazy guy hanging out until he's hungry. And then it's, what does he see it? He sees it and he strikes, right? So I learned as a crone when you see something that you absolutely want and you want to take the time to come into alignment with it. You want to take time to look at it very carefully and then strike when the iron's hot. But that takes alignment, right? So it's being able to wait until the timing is perfect.
Wow. Wow, that is so insightful. And, we're talking about divine feminine mystery. We're talking about, as you said, the crone phase of life and how you feel that the crone women of a certain age, or and not even as a certain age, but in a certain place in their life, didn't hold, even in our own community, as much of the weight or respect as they should have. I think that's societally a huge issue that could be an entire other episode, not just women, but elderly people in general. But I also think that they were talking about, you know, the female journey. I think that uh, there's a, how do I put it? An energy around people that choose as women, whether you are a cis woman or a trans woman, as a woman, if you're living a woman experience, um, that if you're choosing certain things, you're not valued as highly as a woman who chooses a traditional mother, you know, housewife path, even today, even in today's day and age. And in fact, today it might even be worse because women are expected to have everything, right? If you're not, if you decide you just want to be a mother and you want to raise your children at home and you don't want the big career, there's a poo-poo on you because you don't want to have the career. And likewise, if you want to just have the career and you don't want to have children, oh, poo-poo, you why don't you want to be a mother? Oh, you'll want kids one day. And so I think that there is something to this, the wisdom of a woman as she grows older, you know, and based on the choices that she makes, not necessarily the age in which she is. Would you agree?
I would agree. And I think a lot of the things that color that are her chemistry and her life experience.
How do you
Also.
mean?
So, chemically speaking, when a woman cycles each month, or the moon, let's just say the moon cycles her, because everybody, you know, and it's some of it's biological, but some of it's chemical, and I think um, every woman who goes through phases of hormonal shift, right, is affected by that hormonal shift. And I'm sure um, any woman who has a menstrual cycle, not all women do, but any woman who has a menstrual cycle will notice clarity times and then fatigue times. PMS is real. I
Mm,
mean, like, so all those chemical dances actually affect how the mind is going to perceive information. And
mm,
there's usually a window in there of such clarity. There's usually a window in there that, that has such clarity, you wonder why you never thunk it before.
mm. Yes,
I don't know if you if you can relate to that.
absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that any woman, um, whether they're transgendered or anything, any once she starts aligning herself to the chemistry of the ebb and flow
Mm,
side of the moon, will find those windows also. Like, so
mhm.
it's not just biological per se,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. It's the cycles of being a human being. It's how we are connected to earth and moon, the cycles of earth. Some of us don't do well in the dark months, and some of us thrive in the dark months, or we might find that clarity in the summertime because everything is in bloom, and others of us are like, I hate the sunlight. So I think that's 100% true because we are so connected, right? Above, below, within. We are so connected to all of these things to be awake to those cycles. I also think that in terms of, I love what you said before about the lesson of Awen teaching you, take time to digest and don't waste your energy. And that Crohn's generally don't have time for your bullshit, right? But I have to come back to, I don't necessarily know. Okay, for me, I don't have time for bullshit, and I'm over bullshit. And that happened. I could pinpoint when those things started happening in my life, and they were directly related to large traumas that I went through. To say, I'm experiencing something very real. I don't give a shit if you can't find the right color shoes. Like, don't call me as your girlfriend and be like, oh, well, I can't find the right tank top to wear with my jeans. I don't care. Like, I'm really sorry that that upsets you, but I'm not going to get fed into the drama about it, because it's not important. I've been through important things. And I think as we age as women, as we go through the human experience, we go through traumas. And the result of that is wisdom. The result of that is, I don't have time. I'm not going to waste my time with people or things that aren't important on the level that I need them to be. And I could see how that directly relates to the work you're doing in your crone work. And you said you're doing crone calls, and you're teaching classes now too on this work, aren't you?
Yes, I don't have one scheduled yet for the next cycle, but I just finished one in the spring. So it's a year long.
That's fantastic. It's fantastic. And it must be, again, very popular, because I think that there are a lot of women who feel that there's no place for them because of their age or their life choices. Even within our very open, loving community, listen, I don't have children. I have a business. That's my baby. I'm technically supposed to be in the mother phase of my life as a woman, but I don't have children. So oftentimes I struggle with that, because I'm not a mother, except that I am, but not in a traditional way. Right. So even within our own tropes, the maiden, the mother, and the crone, we can still have trouble identifying and seeing ourselves in our spiritual path.
Yeah.
Is that something that you've seen or have taught about, or can you speak to that at all?
Um, can you clarify the question?
So meaning, like, have you seen in your classes or with clients or people you're doing readings that they're having trouble identifying? And if so, is this the type of work that you would do? Like, okay, here we go through your feminine mystery workings, right? Like, we've sat together and be like, Dawn, just because you don't have kids doesn't mean you're not a mother. You're still a nurturer,
Right,
right?
right.
And helping people on that path to see where they do line up with that divine feminine.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Thank you for clarifying. So I want to speak to when it comes to the maiden mother crone journey. She's constantly cycling no matter what phase of life you're in.
Mm,
So I still experience my maiden.
mm.
I still experience the mother, and um, I'm entering, or I would say I'm down the hall of the crone. I haven't entered fully into the house or but like
Yeah.
I'm definitely on the
Could
journey.
see it from here.
I can see it. It's all there. The fireplace is down there, like it's all there. So yeah. So and what'll happen is different experiences or situations will happen that helps me to align somebody's story during their consultation. As an example, could be somebody who is so identified with being a mother and a nurturer and is stressed to high heaven because her phase is taking her somewhere else and she's not honoring the,
Mm.
the call to the crone. She still feels like she has to keep up with her 21-year-old son or her,
Oh,
or tending to her husband, like, and she probably has a full-time job. You know what I mean? Like, it's like,
right.
hello, you're transitioning. When do you choose you? When do you choose the wisdom of what your body is naturally doing and calling you to. Allow
Wow.
this transition. Begin to start choosing the self. It's okay. And I think some of the issue around the dance with the divine feminine for women who have grown up, no matter whether it was in the 80s, 90s, you know, uh, the messages, the message is still there that being a giver, being a nurturer, those are the things that are valued in culture.
Mhm.
Okay? And uh, if we choose to take care of ourselves, it's considered selfish.
Mm.
Well, maybe we need to make peace with that word. Selfless means there's nothing there to give from.
Mm.
Okay. Self-full or self-care is not selfish.
100%. 100%. 100%. And it's so difficult. And again, you don't learn that until you are older. You know, I, at least from my experience, young women are always trying to please other people, right?
Yes,
Who am I? Because I want to know who you want me to be. And I'll be that person for you.
exactly.
What are your expectations of me? And I'll fulfill your expectations of me. I got to get this job, so I have to dress a certain way. I've got to impress these friends, so I need to pretend like I'm into, this particular sport or this music. And then as we get older, we realize that doing those things is chipping away at our soul, and we're not being true to ourselves. And we come into ourselves. It was funny. I was just having a conversation with Justin the other day, and we were talking about, like, 'cause it was our wedding anniversary, and we were talking about, oh my God, have we've been together? We've been married for 15 years. We've been together for 21 years. That's like fucking crazy. And then we thought, geez, we are at the point where we can measure our lives in decades, right? And we go, okay, wow. I remember when I turned 30, and all of my friends, oh my God, I can't believe I'm turning 30. My life is over. I don't have children. I don't have a job, blah, blah. And everybody's freaking out because they're turning 30. And I remember thinking, oh, 30 is going to be great. And I thought the decade between 30 and 40, I was like, it's going to be awesome because I'm going to get my business off the ground, and I'm going to move to New England, and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. Like all these things that I was going to do in that decade. And most of those things I've done. And now, at the beginning of my 40s, most people are like, oh, they don't want to say how old they are. I'm like, fuck, I don't care. I'm going to be 42 in November, and I'm excited because between 40 and 50, oh my goodness, what I'm going to do. I'm comfortable. I don't care what other people think. I'm no longer living for everyone else. I've learned it's okay to take care of myself. And I wish that young women, not even women, people, just people, like, they always say if you could go back and tell your 18-year-old self something, I would say nobody's looking at you. Nobody's looking at you. Nobody cares what you do. Just go be yourself. Right? Is that the message of the crone pretty much, right? Just fucking be you.
Be you, but discover who that is because you've been chipping away at her or putting facades over her for so long.
Wow.
That to remember there's something other than the roles that we play.
Wow. Has that been something that you've really discovered about yourself?
Yes. I remember as a teenager, I was like 13 or 14 years old, and my mother said, "Be yourself." I'm like, "What the hell is be yourself?" I'm
Right.
just trying to get you not to yell at me. Like, oh my God, I don't even know. How do you tell a teenager doesn't know who they are? They're still putting it together.
Right.
So we're trying on clothes, we're trying on personalities, like
Yeah.
what's gonna give us the love and approval, right? And the truth of the matter is, if you don't got it here in you for yourself, it ain't coming out there, you know.
Right.
So it took a while. It took a while for me to realize that what I was looking for was all here, all one.
Yeah, you're kind of nailing that shit, Matooka. I'm just I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
to me, you are the embodiment of loving the self and nurturing. And I'm sure you work on it every day.
Every day.
I'm sure you work on learning to love yourself every day, because that's your work, because you couldn't be so loving to others if you didn't do that work. And I think when you boil down most spiritual practice, that's what it comes down to. Like, whatever path you follow, whatever deities you pray to, it comes down to love and understanding self. And that spiritual work, you cannot thrive in a spiritual world. You cannot thrive in an emotional world or physical world if you don't have that as the base, your foundation. And the fact that you facilitate other people to see that in themselves is like the greatest gift. Like, really, again, I told you I was just going to spend the last hour like just gushing over your amazingness. And I wish everybody could hug Matooka, only if you're vaccinated.
Thank you.
You're one day, maybe you're gonna be like Alma, where people just come to you and like you just hug them and touch their face. I know you love Alma, and just touch their face and just say like, I just love you, and that's it, because that's who you are. So
That'd be a great ritual, actually.
Right?
Divine Mother ritual, right there. Bam.
Right there it is. I did this years ago. You know Lisa, my friend Lisa, who works at Cucina? We did for her birthday, a bunch of women, we all got together and we did basically like a beautiful ritual for her birthday. And it was like a foot washing ritual. And basically she had to sit there and let us all tell her why we all loved her. And it was weaving flowers in her hair. It was like the coolest,
wow,
like
beautiful
pagan red tent mama goddess like thing that we've ever done. And she had this friend that facilitated it, and then we all moved out of New York, and so I've never heard of it ever again, but it was amazing. And it is that moment of learning to love yourself. I would completely see you doing that sort of thing. 100%. Okay, so we have a little bit of time left, but and listen, this is recorded, so we can cut this all out if you want to, okay? But I know that you have this thing that you want to make a big announcement on October 13th. Today is that we're recording this on October 12th. It's not going to even air until December. And I really, really want to know what your big announcement is. And I don't know if it's the kind of thing you want to share here or just with me, because again, we could totally cut it out. But again, this won't air until December. So you will have already made your big announcement. So it won't be like a spoiler. Can you tell me?
Yeah, so I'll share with you. I'm doing, so we talked about stillness and all the things earlier, right? About what helps a person quiet their mind and so forth. And so I've, in these last 2 years, have been monitoring all the crazy that's going on as far as people's angst being up and depression and being separate from people and all the stuck stuff that's been going on. I know my own experience of how it lands for me. So I've been dreaming into, well, how do I reach people and help support in a way that actually will serve them with very little time and effort. And so I came up with something I call the Dreamweaver's Web. And the Dreamweaver's Web. Ooh, what does that mean?
I don't know, but it sounds great.
So, and what it is an affordable, what I call an affordable membership, $9 a month, and they get 2 monthly readings and a meditation, and a private Facebook group to discuss some of the dream weaving, and 10% off of anything else that I offer, and access to me to get support. Yeah. So my Dreamweavers is creating a community of people who can bring stillness into their lives and then access their true dreams and create.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is amazing. I don't know if you could hear my cat. He was just yelling about how great that is. That's incredible. And I need to tell you, you should charge more for that.
Well, I understand that, but I think the idea for me, the dream about that, isn't so much about it isn't so much it's the access. So that
Mm,
$9, the nine is the number of the goddess,
hmm
and it makes the door open for anyone because most people can handle a $9 a month thing, automatic payment type of thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't break the bank. It helps make this access. And also, if a person decides, well, I'm just not listening to the meditation, I'm not really taking the time, I'm not utilizing the intention here, they can always get off the web and
hmm
big deal. But it's not about it. The dream is to more help the ouch that's going on and allowing my calling to meet the bigger calling so that once a person starts feeling some of the medicine that I can bring to them just on their monthly, gifts, then maybe they'll make their Hoops of Life consultation because wow, they were so touched by that, or maybe they'll come to a bear cave, or maybe the other things, a fire walk. We didn't talk about that.
Oh my God, a fire
So
walk, because that's something else that you're doing. Are you going to start teaching fire walks now?
I will help provide firewalks after the pandemic recedes. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you have the land to do it now,
Yeah, I do.
which is amazing. But this is a really, I mean, listen, that's an amazing thing that you want to do to offer that type of service for such a small fee. And it just speaks to, like you said, your goal is to help people. And it speaks to your heart. And I'm sure that, you know, it allows you to reach people that you wouldn't necessarily reach otherwise. And wow, I mean, listen though, to have 2 readings a month with Matooka for $9, that's
Well, let me be clear on how that works. Okay, so it's not like our moment where we're sitting here and
right,
talking.
right, right, right,
I'm going to draw a card because I do that every morning for myself, and then I'm
right.
going to put it in a microphone and I'm going to say the blah, blah, blah about the card, and then I'm going to take a little short meditation for 2 minutes, and
Right.
they're going to get that recording.
But that's
So
amazing. I mean, again, it's that touching on, like we said at the very beginning of this conversation, it doesn't have to be hours and hours. It's the moment. It can be, touching on with spirit for 3 minutes a day. It's those baby steps that keep you connected. And that's what you're offering. You're offering connectivity, you're offering a window, and then the person on the other end can choose, do I want to open that window wide open or just want to keep it cracked and just let a little
absolutely,
fresh air in?
absolutely. It becomes those little tiny baby step offerings of, oh, will I commit 3 minutes a day to myself, just me?
Self-care, as we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, so Matooka, when people want to find you and figure out if they want to sign up for this service, they want to get involved in your crone work, they want to get a reading, where can people find you on social media, website? Give us all that information.
Yeah, so I am on Facebook. I have a page that is about my work. It's called Hoops of Life Divination on Facebook, as well as my profile as Matooka Moonbear also. I also have my website, matookamoonbear.com, and email. You can reach out for me there through the website, but also blessings at matookamoonbear.com.
So all of those notes are going to be on the show notes. So if anybody wants to find you at matookamoonbear.com, all those links are going to be on the show notes so people can find you, and they should find you because you're fucking amazing. And like I said, there's no one in the world like you. And there's, I've had therapy and Reiki and all these things. And I don't think anyone spiritually has ever helped me and guided me to understanding myself in the ways that you have, both in a reading setting or a session setting, as well as just emulating your example of kindness. Like I said, I want to be Matooka when I grow up because you are like this beacon of divine feminine and positivity and love. And I'm beyond grateful that you are in my life. You'll never really understand how much you mean to me. Like, really. Okay. You won't, because I don't have words for that. Like, it doesn't exist in words. I just have to cook you something. That would be how I would. It's so, speaking of that, what a great segue. My final question I ask to all of my guests: if you could have me make one recipe for you in my kitchen witchy way, what would that be and why? And then I'm going to come up with that recipe and I'm going to post it on your episode so people can make it, or you can make it if you wanted to.
So, Dawn, it's a tall order. You ready?
I'm so ready.
Yeah. So what I would love is like a gluten-free, of course, gluten-free, dairy-free eggplant parmesan.
Oh, so delicious. Gluten-free, dairy-free eggplant.
Parmesan.
Oh, my goodness. Sometimes I make so I can't have lactose, not dairy. So I'll use lactose-free cheese. I don't know if that would work for you, but I do make a grilled, like I don't fry the eggplant, I grill it because I fucking love eggplant. Justin hates it. But I'll grill it in garlic oil and then I cover it with lactose-free cheese and sauce and I bake it. But that's a challenge to come up with a dairy-free. Maybe I could make it like a rotini, so like an inside out gluten-free. And then I could use like silken tofu for the cheese.
Well, let me tell you.
Tell me.
You can make a very divine ricotta cheese out of raw cashews, soaked cashew. Because I've done it and it's amazing. And you would
listen, I remember Ren made that vegan nacho cheese out of cashews.
Yes.
It blew my mind. I still have dreams about it.
Yeah, it's pretty good, right?
Yeah.
It's like definitely I could just sit and eat that stuff. But yeah, the ricotta cheese, amazing.
Okay, you've given me a challenge, my love. You've given me a challenge and you've given me so much love. And thank you so much for spending time and showing everyone a window into your heart and your practice, because it is so unique. And I really think that people need to know who you are and the work that you're doing in the world, because I think it's really important. So thank you for being here. Thank you for spending the afternoon with me. I hurt you so big.
So big, Dawn. I just adore you.
I am so grateful to you. Yeah, so thank you so much for being here. And until next time, I wish you many blessings and so much gratitude. Thank you so much for being here.